I am Pamela Tokar-Ickes, Somerset County Commissioner, and I chair the Democratic Caucus of the Pennsylvania County Commissioners Association. As Joe Ellen just mentioned, before we go any further, just want to make sure that everyone knows that we are going to be recording today's session. So by your continued presence, we will presume consent. It's just wonderful to see everybody this morning, and I'm hoping we have more folks join. I think we will, but we're going to move forward nonetheless. Because of the impact of the pandemic on all of our counties and our friends and our families, our state and our nation, could we all join together to get started this morning with just a brief moment of silence? Thank you very much. As I said, it's wonderful to actually see everyone. It's been a total of 16 months since our caucus last came together, and a lot has happened in that year. Our meeting this morning is going to be moving at a very fast pace. I'm going to remind our members that at the conclusion of the judicial candidates presentation, we ask that you please sign in for the business meeting promptly using the second Zoom link that you received in your email. So we're going to jump in right now with our introductions of the Democratic Judicial candidates. And I believe everyone is here this morning, all 8 of you. So we're going to give you all about 3 minutes because of the time compression. That's a little short than we originally planned, but we are going to be taping this and we will share this with all of our members. So if they don't see you live, they'll see you recorded. So candidates, I will begin with Judge Maria McLaughlin, who is our candidate for the Justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
Well above average, a little bit.
I have some backlash. Can you hear me? You can hear me?
We can hear you, and I would ask everyone else to please mute. Thank you.
Okay, so good morning, and I am so happy to be here and have to start off with thank you because I recall being in Harrisburg at the Hilton in 2017 and so excited to have a room with folks from all over the state because I had been traveling the state in individual counties. So I was never so excited. I was so excited that I was introducing myself to Republicans because I had no idea that the Republicans were meeting the same morning. So I do recall that, and I have to start off with thank you because I would not be a Superior Court judge if it wasn't for all of your hard work. I know that I got elected because you all helped me, and I need your help again. You invited me to your chili cook-offs. You walked me around your counties, whether you were the majority commissioners or the minority commissioners. You lent me your good name, get elected. And I don't forget that. And so I'm here once again asking for your support. But for anybody who may be on here who doesn't know me or is going to listen to this on a tape, I know you also have to sell us to your county. And so I want you to know that, yes, I am the only Democrat running for our state's highest court, and I'm honored to be that candidate. But I also want to tell you that I have a breadth of knowledge that not one of the Republicans have. I am ready to go on our Supreme Court from day one. I started off in the Senate, learning the legislative end of things. I worked and clerked for the Superior Court, the president judge who was a Republican at the time. Then I spent 19 and a half years as a prosecutor. When I resigned from there, I did criminal defense work and real estate work. I took the trial bench in Philadelphia, the largest jurisdiction in our Commonwealth. I sat in family law and criminal law. I dealt with election law issues and labor law issues. And now I am running for our Supreme Court as a statewide elected Superior Court judge who does family law, criminal law, civil law, orphans court. I do wiretaps. There isn't anything that the Supreme Court deals with that I don't have experience with. I am the current liaison between the Pennsylvania Superior Court and every single county with COVID-related issues. I am highly recommended, not only by the Pennsylvania Bar, but by our local bar in Philadelphia. So there's your stump speech that you could sell to all of your counties, but you know me. I visited every one of your counties, all 67 of them, and I am just doing that once again. I've already visited every county, I think, of every commissioner on here, besides Somerset, and I'm coming. But I just left Erie this weekend. I was in Westmoreland County. I was in Center County. I was in Montgomery County. I'm trying to check out all of the commissioners that are on here. But thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you did for me in 2017. And these Republicans are coming at my seat in particular. They have $9 million to beat me. $9 million for one Supreme Court seat. So I think we all know the importance of this seat. With our election, our votes wouldn't have counted without the Supreme Court. So boy, do I need you commissioners and executives on my side once again. You know how to reach me. Please do so I can win these seats in every Democratic name that comes under my own. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to address all of you, and I look forward to working with you in your county.
Thank you, Judge. We will now move to the candidates for the judge of the Pennsylvania Superior Court, and we will go to Judge Tamika Lane.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your dedication to having us all here at 7:15 in the morning. So thank you. My name is Tamika Lane, and I was elected to the Court of Common Pleas in 2013 in Philadelphia. And I am a candidate for Superior Court. I am the only candidate for Superior Court that is actually a judge. And let me tell you why that matters. Once you put on that black robe and you zip it up and you sit on that bench and you make those hard decisions day in and day out, that matters. We took an oath to the citizens that elected us. And that's something that we take very seriously. I have experience. I am the only one with experience on both sides of the bench. Before I was a lawyer even, I was a public school teacher. But after law school, I served as a law clerk where I drafted opinions and memorandums of law for the judge I worked with and basically just supported whatever decision she did. After that, I was a public defender where I represented thousands, hundreds, if not thousands of people in jury and bench trials. And the bench trial is just when you do a trial where the judge makes a decision. But I've done cases from start to finish, complex criminal matters. I was also a supervisor there. I did that for over 6 years. I've done several arbitrations where I sat on panels of 3 and decided civil matters. I'm also a certified child advocate and have experience in family court. I worked in the Senate on the legislative end, similar to Judge McLaughlin, so I have that experience as well. But where I differ from the other candidates, Democratic as well as Republican, is that I'm actually a judge. And I'm assigned currently to the Criminal Trials Division as a major trials judge, where I hear jury and bench trials for complex criminal matters. Any serious felony matter is going to come before me. I am the only judge who does human trafficking cases, but I also do a lot of domestic and family violence cases, sexual assaults, but my cases run the gamut. And again, I do everything, as well as supervise and oversee numerous reentry programs. I was also appointed by the Supreme Court to be co-chair of the County Adult Probation and Parole Advisory Committee, and I am very active in the community. What I found interesting to note is that 11 of the current 14 judges on the Superior Court, they were all judges first. And I venture to say because that matters to voters. Being a judge matters. And the Superior Court is an error-correcting court. They do criminal, civil, and family matters, anything dealing with children. And I have experience in all areas of the law. And I just want to say thank you so much. I know that we're on a time constraint, but we also need to look at the people that we're putting on the bench, not only just the obvious diversity that I'm a Black woman and there's only one Black person on all the appellate bench, but a diversity of real life experiences. I am first generation college. I am first generation law school. I'm a single mom. I know what it's like to work 3 jobs to make a living. As a school teacher, I was still working retail. I am also a cancer survivor and a fighter. I know what it's like when you have to adjust to a new normal. And I venture to say so many people who have interactions with the court system also have to adjust to a new normal. And I understand that. And I think that when we're looking at who we want to put on the bench, we need someone who was tried and tested like I am. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us today. So thank you so much. My name is Judge Tamika Lane, and I'm running for the Superior Court. And it's one seat. It is a Republican vacancy. And I know that with the help of each and every one of you, we will flip this seat. So thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we will go to Attorney Jill Beck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you holding this morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jill Beck. I am from Allegheny County, and I'm running for Superior Court. As you heard in Judge McLaughlin's statement, the Superior Court is the Court of Appeals for criminal, civil, family, juvenile, and orphans court matters. Those are all areas that I have tried and represented clients in as an attorney. I started my legal career at Kids Voice, a private nonprofit where I represented abused and neglected children. I had about 200 kids on my caseload at any given time. And these were kids aged birth to 21. So that's a lot of different needs, a lot of advocacy, and a lot of time in court. I was in court about 3 to 5 days a week. I tried over 1,400 cases while there. That had me in the orphans court, the juvenile court, the family court. I represented them in criminal matters when they had minor brushes with the law. But the most significant and important experience I had was in the Superior Court itself. I filed appeals, defended appeals, and orally argued before that court. So I really know the court from the practitioner side and the law that goes into the court. But I also know the law that goes out of the court because I spent 10 years in the chambers of Christine Donahue, 6 in the Superior Court, 4 on the Supreme Court. And while working for her, I drafted over 500 decisions of the very kind that I will get to decide if elected to that court. So I know the law that goes into that court, and I know the law that comes out of that court. I know the black letter law, and I know the procedural rules, having been the person to review all procedural rule changes that came in while she was sitting on the Supreme Court for the 4 years I was there. And that amounted to over, I don't know, 300 or 400 different rule changes. I have largely dedicated my career to public service. When I made the decision to run, I did join a private law firm, but it was a law firm that gave me very wide berth to do pro bono work, which is really where my heart is. I have been a civil litigator representing businesses, financial institutions, and nonprofit organizations, but I also represented victims of domestic violence and protection from abuse actions, did work in the area of voter and election protection, did work in the area of housing insecurity through the COVID crisis. But for the most part, it was really just helping people without money get the same rights and protections as people who do. I did that through partnerships with our local civil legal aid organization, Neighborhood Legal Services, as well as on the criminal side, doing appellate work, helping people get rights like the right to counsel at an initial bail hearing, like protections of the Fourth Amendment when they live in a rooming house as opposed to a single family home. Because for me, it's about people having access to the courts, no matter who you are, what you look like, how you pray, who you love, what you're alleged to have done, how much money you make, if you have a disability. Every person deserves the same level of justice and the same level of review by the courts. You know, I have been highly recommended as a judge of the Superior Court by the Allegheny County Bar Association. The Pennsylvania Bar Association also recommended me for the role. I know this job. I know this court. I am ready to go from day one. And, you know, I get asked all the time, you know, well, you're an attorney. Why not run for common pleas first? Isn't that a stepping stone? And I have nothing but respect for the Court of Common Pleas. I think they have an extremely hard job in their own right, but it is a very different job from that of a Superior Court judge. Trial court judges are managing a courtroom, a docket, witnesses, juries, evidence. They're ruling on the law, but they're ruling on the fly. You know, they're ruling on objections, and it's in the moment.
I hate to
Superior Court, I'm sorry?
Could you bring to a close? I hate to interrupt, but yeah, 3 minutes goes very quickly. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. The email said 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I apologize. Okay. Well, I would just say, you know, and the Superior Court deals with really none of that. It is a quiet, contemplative court that rules solely on the facts as found, tying into the law. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support. I'm sorry for my misunderstanding of the timing, and happy to answer any questions you may have. Most of you already have my contact information, but I'll put it in the chat as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jill. Okay, I don't see Attorney Neff on here. He did receive notification. So we will move on to our candidates for the judge of the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court. And we will start with Judge David Spurgeon. Judge Spurgeon? There we go.
Good morning. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulty first thing in the morning. Not enough caffeine, I guess. I'm Judge David Spurgeon, and I am running for the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court. I am a Commonwealth Common Pleas judge in Allegheny County. I've served there for the last 5 years. I was appointed by Governor Wolf and then had to run for a full election and won a 10-year term. During that time, I spent most of my experience in the family division. I deal with all matters pertaining to families and deal with a huge foster care docket and interact with our Department of Human Services, which I know is probably near and dear to most of the commissioners on this call's heart. And prior to that, I spent 19 years in the district attorney's office. And I'll probably be the first person to tell you I didn't plan on staying that long, but I went in order to get some trial experience, pay all the student loans I had to pay back from law school, but I fell in love with public service and I stuck around for 19 years. And I stuck around because I got to do some really good things that changed our county system. So I became a passionate advocate for our problem-solving courts. And when I left the DA's office, Allegheny County had more problem-solving courts than any other county in the state. I was very proud of that. I helped supervise our mental health court unit, where we got people out of the jail that had mental health issues and got them the treatment that they needed to stop the revolving door that we have between the criminal justice system and mental health. You know, it was $105 a day to keep somebody in the Allegheny County jail. We were able to use those funds to give people housing and to reallocate them to the Department of Human Services to give people the support they need, to get the medication that they needed. Based on the success of that, we were able to create Veterans Court. And you know, Pennsylvania has a huge number of veterans coming back from combat that had traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress disorder. And because of those issues, they were using drugs and alcohol to medicate. So we were able to take people out of the county system and place them into the federal system where they were getting the support that they needed, being paid for by the federal government versus the county government. And probably the real reason I stuck around is because I became the lead prosecutor in the area of domestic violence. So I was the lead prosecutor in cases where victims were typically women or children who were physically or sexually abused or murdered by someone that told them that they loved them or had a family relationship with. Became a national expert in that area. Recently was on Court TV talking about the impact of domestic violence in the pandemic. And I will tell you, I am the endorsed Democrat by the Pennsylvania State Party for Commonwealth Court, and I'm the only candidate in the race that has been highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association. And that's important not for just the primary election, but the general election, because none of the Republican candidates got that top rating. So it's important when we go through that through the fall. I come back from humble means. I am from the city of McKeesport. I grew up as the steel mills collapsed. I was the first person in my family to go to college or law school. During law school, I also worked for the Pennsylvania State Senate while I was attending law school. And I have the democratic values that are missing on the Commonwealth Court. As you may know, the Commonwealth Court, which affects so many things regarding county issues and zoning issues and local municipalities, has 7 Republicans and 2 Democrats. The 2 seats that are open are both Republican seats. We need to flip those 2 seats and turn them into Democratic seats and put our democratic values and vision on the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. I'm so happy to be here this morning, and I hope to see you all in person real soon.
Thank you, Judge. And we will move now to Judge Sierra Street.
Good morning, everyone. I guess you guys believe that the early bird does get the worm. So thank you for having us this early in the morning. It's good to see everybody. I am Sierra Street. I'm a judge on the Court of Common Pleas here in Philadelphia. And I'm going into my 8th year on the bench. But before I talk about work with the Commonwealth Court, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I come from strong working class roots. My mother is a nurse and an Army vet. And she taught me 2 things. One was a mission to help others, and the other is a strong work ethic. And my mother still works at the tender age of 72 years old. So God bless her and all the other essential workers who are getting us through this pandemic. My parents imparted in me the importance of education. They pushed me to get my education, and I did that. I was a good student. I attended Howard University like Kamala Harris. While there, I interned at the United States Department of State. I went on to law school when I realized that I was going to go into law instead of medicine, because I was told, you have a big mouth, you probably would be better off in the law. And while I was in law school, I interned at the White House under the Clinton administration. Once I graduated, I went into public interest law, which is the area of law where you help people. So just like my mother, the nurse, I wanted to help people. And I became a law clerk. I worked for family courts. And then I took a job at the public defender's office. And that was probably the pivotal moment in my career where I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I loved being in court, and I was getting my wish. I was helping people all day, every day. I was representing thousands of clients who needed help. And I wasn't their first choice as an attorney, but I was their only choice. And I did my best to help them. It was also a great training ground. It's a place where I tell most young lawyers you should get some experience either at the DA's office or the public defender's office. Once I left that job, I took another job at a nonprofit in affordable housing. And there we service formerly homeless families and moderate to low income families. So I jumped from the criminal side of the law to the civil side of the law. And I got some experience in zoning. I was supervising the sale of residential and commercial properties. So I had to deal with tax assessments, government compliance and regulations. We know that affordable housing is funded by the federal government and the money trickles down to the local level. So that was a good experience. It was totally different from my experience at the public defender's office. It was there that I launched my candidacy for the Court of Common Pleas, and it was a tough race 8 years ago. Very tough race, but I am battle tested and I won because I didn't give up. And I had the help of good people like you to get me where I am today. Once elected, they assigned me to the criminal division, which was fine because I'm a former public defender. So I was able to handle those cases. And I was selected to be the lead supervising judge of the Philadelphia Indicting Grand Jury Program, which houses all of the most serious cases in this city. And we know that the crime rate here is out of control. And so this program is totally necessary because it houses the cases where people are afraid to testify and they would go nowhere without this program. So I'm very proud of that work. I was also elected by my peers to be the chair of Judicial Council, which is a group of judges of color across the state. And I mean, from Philadelphia all the way to Allegheny County. And we did a lot of community service. I created the college mentoring program. We went around to area high schools and mentored students, high school students. Many of the judges had gone to those high schools. We also mentored law students from Penn all the way to Duquesne Law School. We mentored students in the juvenile justice system. So even before I became a public defender, I used to go into the jails when I volunteered for Project Home, which also services the homeless population in Philadelphia. I used to go into the jails and register people who didn't know that they had the right to vote.
To interrupt you. You're
Yes.
at 3 minutes, but hopefully we will have time for questions, which is why we're compressing everything this morning. So I hate to interrupt you, but
Okay, can I just wrap up?
sure, absolutely.
Thank you. And that was the work of the Commonwealth Court. So I tell you that my career has been diverse, just like the cases that the Commonwealth Court handles. And I guess we'll get more into what the Commonwealth Court does because it does everything. The question is, what don't they do? And how important this court is. And that's why I'm running for the Commonwealth Court. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you. Okay, we did reach out to Judge Hawkins, or no, excuse me, Attorney Hawkins. I don't see her here today. And so we do have Judge Laurie Dumas. Judge?
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to just have a few words with you. My name is Judge Laurie Dumas, and I'm running for the Commonwealth Court. I've been a Common Pleas Court judge in Philadelphia for the past 19 years, and I have had the opportunity to serve in many different areas of the court since I was elected. I've served in the family court, I've served in the criminal court, and now I'm in the civil court. And I think that that's important because I've had the opportunity over the last 19 years to actually truly learn the law, to develop all of the skills necessary for a judge to do a good job on this level, but also to be able to move with confidence to the next level of our court, which is the appellate level. The majority of my tenure was spent in family court, where I was really doing my passion work, where I had the opportunity to work with children and families who were in need of a lot of different things. And as a judge in the family court in particular, you wear a whole lot of different hats because you want to make sure that everything that you have, you give to these families so that they can be empowered to be able to move forward, right? As opposed to doing things to keep them entangled in the system. My belief and my philosophy that courts are supposed to assist our families and our children to grow and to be stronger so that they don't need us anymore. And so I had the pleasure of doing that for 15 years. And I will say that my most rewarding work was working with our juvenile human trafficking victims, where I had the opportunity to create the only juvenile human trafficking court in the United States at that time, serving juveniles from the ages of 10 to 21 who had been identified as victims of human trafficking, which is a very significant problem in Pennsylvania. And a lot of people did not know until we started doing the work in Philadelphia how significant human trafficking is and what a problem we face in Pennsylvania. But due to the work that started in Philadelphia and spread like wildfire throughout our Commonwealth, we are now one of the leading jurisdictions as it relates to serving this population and keeping our children safe. From there, I went to a criminal court, doing juries and non-juries, and now I'm in civil court doing the same. Juries and non-juries of all of the different areas of law that we will actually see in Commonwealth Court. And it is clearly, I didn't really know where my path was taking me through the courts, but I knew once I decided that this was where I wanted to go, the Commonwealth Court, it was clear to me that my journey was for a purpose through our court system. And I've been able to gain the experience necessary to do the job on the Commonwealth Court that all of our Pennsylvanians need, because we need judges who understand the law, who understand people, and who understand how to problem solve and how to do all of that juggling that Jill talked about earlier that trial court judges do. And to be able to take that type of experience to the appellate court makes me uniquely qualified to be able to understand what the issues are on appeal, how to identify them, and how to rectify them quickly.
But we are out of time at your 3 minutes, so I apologize. It goes so quickly. So if
it did. But okay, well, thank you for your time, and I really need your support. So thank you so much.
Okay, and I really hate to be
It's
so
okay. It's
interrupt.
okay. I understand.
I know as a political candidate, when you head of steam, you want to just keep on going, and I'm so sorry. We do have a few minutes for our judicial candidates to take any questions from the commissioners that are here this morning, or to have anyone who is on the panel of candidates take this time to follow up on something if you don't have a question that you'd like to bring closure to. Commissioners, any questions for our candidates this morning?
Chairman, if I might, this is Commissioner Boozle.
Yes, please.
I just have a question, and I'm not sure how this applies to all courts or some courts, but just a very brief synopsis of, there's a lot of immigration laws that are happening, and concerns about them being treated fairly in the court system. I'm just curious how that will play any part of their judge candidacies.
Okay, who would like to?
And I would open up for any.
I can say
anyone could take that.
Immigration is largely a matter of the federal court jurisdiction. State courts don't typically hear things involving immigration. The one exception would be sort of lead up to immigration cases. So for example, I've handled what are called special immigrant juvenile status cases that are dependency matters, but specifically for kids who are here without documentation and without supervision. And so, those cases have very specific confines and things that need to be proven. And those certainly do come up through the state court system, and they would go from the dependency court to the superior court and then ultimately to the Supreme Court if appealed all the way up. But typically immigration is something under the federal jurisdiction.
Thank you for that. I was unaware. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely.
It's confusing. I agree with Jill. I would just say that there's a tension between state court judges and the federal law enforcement officials who are trying to detain immigrants in our courts. So sometimes when you see television shows who are depicting these tense moments, a lot of times they don't get things right, but they are getting that right. There's a tension between state court judges and federal officials and how they're carrying out their detainment of immigrants.
Thank you.
And this is Judge McLaughlin. Not that it is an immigration issue, it's a criminal court issue, but it comes before the Superior Court. Sometimes if your counsel, court-appointed counsel or your PD doesn't let you know when you're pleading guilty, they can have an effect on your immigration status. So we get a lot of those cases on PCRAs when they want us to review whether or not there was an error by their trial attorney for not letting them know that if they plead guilty to something, they can be deported. So it's not an immigration case per se that would go to the federal courts, but it's certainly an immigration related issue that comes to the Superior Court and ultimately the Supreme Court if you're not happy with what our court does. So there is some impact at the state level.
Thank you all for your answers. That was great. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions for our judicial candidates? What can we best do to help you all as candidates? I know that it's always difficult to run a statewide campaign, but I would imagine in the atmosphere of the pandemic, it has been even more difficult for everyone to make the contacts and connections that really do assist in a successful political lead you to victory, essentially. What can we do as commissioners in our respective counties to help you individually?
Well, I think the important thing to note is every single one of these seats that are up are Republican held. So you can help us flip all these seats and make them blue. And so that's the first thing. But I know firsthand everything that you did for me. So, I mean, when you let us know when you're having events, even if there's something like, for example, I don't have a primary, so I am your Democratic candidate. If there is somewhere that you think I should be, maybe you could just introduce me around. Some of you are majority, some of you are minority, but each and every one of you have helped. You invited us to your chili cook-offs. You invite us into your counties and just walk us around and introduce us to folks who can be active. So I know firsthand what you can do. So I think everything like that, even during COVID, I mean, you could just spread the word. I have an announcement video. If you share that with folks, you know, that would be helpful because I couldn't have a big announcement like I did last time in Dauphin County because of COVID. So like sharing that would be very helpful, but I'll let the others ask as well.
Yeah, I agree with Judge McLaughlin. It's just your help in getting the word out first and foremost that there is an election, because there are a lot of people who do not know that. And then after that, it would be to just, as the judge said, just help us to get our names out to the voters, you know, to at least put us in front of the voters so we have an opportunity to talk to them so that they can make an informed decision about who they think would be best fit for these courts.
I'll follow up with that as well from Judge Dumas and Judge McLaughlin. I think trying to stress to people how important judicial elections are. You know, as we saw in our last election cycle, it's the courts that saved our votes. You know, the Commonwealth Court, the person running against Judge McLaughlin ruled that the votes shouldn't count. And, you know, it's important that people understand that if you want your votes to count and you want the daily, everyday impact to be made, it's the courts that are addressing that, you know, at the trial level, the appellate level, Supreme Court level. And I think we have to stress to the people that we're talking to that courts matter, judges matter, and judicial perspective matters.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We really do appreciate your time, and it's really nice to know that you are just a phone call away. I'm sure that we could all link in with our various county committees and perhaps introduce you virtually to as many voters as we can leading up to the primary. So I want to thank everyone for joining us for segment number 1, the candidates for taking their time this morning. We wish you all the very